good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Hope you are well. Welcome to the last patch and play of June 2026. My name's Jimmy, and I do these streams about once a week, and it's a sort of patch from scratch modular synth stream. So as usual, I will spend the first few minutes kind of setting the context for what we're going to do and what these are about as people start to trickle in. So if you're not familiar with modular synths, that's what you're looking at here. These two big cases full of little boxes. And this is a way of creating electronic music by combining a bunch of small components that usually would be kind of wired together for you in a synth that you might buy with like a keyboard. But with a modular synth, you buy these individual modules that do one thing. And then you take patch cables, which are these little audio cables, and you plug them into the jacks, and they communicate with each other via electricity, which determines the signal flow of the sound. And you can do all sorts of interesting things with them, and you can create your own sort of designs for the synth that does exactly what you want, the way that you want. So unlike buying something just stock off the shelf, you can create your dream instrument. And you can change it over time because modular not only means that you can modulate the signals, but also that the synth itself is modular. You can pull things in and out, move things around, get new things, get rid of old stuff, whatever you want. So as you can see in my setup, I've got two, or I guess three now, cases. I call them the light case and the dark case, and then this is a little pod. And my setup is like a groove box, so it's got everything that you need to make a full piece of music, including multiple melodic voices, drum sounds, sequencing, modulation, mixing, utilities, everything that you would need. I mean, I guess sometimes I find that I don't have something I need, but more or less I'm able to make complete music with this thing. And then I've got a few extra modules in this kind of smaller case, which if you've watched my channel before, you've seen I use mostly for like educational content when I'm focusing on a particular setup and I want to show kind of a small collection of modules that performs a particular thing with a particular goal in mind. And then this little rectangular thing here is the Oxy 1, which is a hardware music sequencer that plays very well with modular. So it's got this one HDMI cable that's running to this little module in the dark case, and you can program up to 8 CV or gate signals that travel over the HDMI cable, and then you can patch them from the case without having a bunch of wires coming off of the sequencer itself. And that's about it for the setup. Let's see if anyone is here yet. Yes, we have Bad Machine. We have Afterlife Registry. Welcome to the stream. Nice to see you, as always. Oh, and last but not least, I have some tea. Some green tea. I think jasmine is the tea this week. And as always, I'm going to try to drink this before it gets cold. So for the stream itself, the idea of this was mostly just to kind of hang out and have fun with this silly little hobby. I've had many comments before about how seeing a finished piece of music with modular, it's kind of hard to understand what you're looking at because you just see a crap load of wires connected and it's just a big mess of spaghetti and hard to understand, like, how did you get from nothing to what I'm looking at now? So part of the motivation for these streams is to kind of show some of the process and talk through it. So starting with a completely blank slate and talking and thinking through, like, what do we want to do for a given patch and how do we achieve it? And seeing some of the sort of discovery of how it all works. So in addition to just, having fun, hopefully making something that is enjoyable to listen to and just geeking out about, this fun tech hobby. I also really like teaching. So to the best of my ability, I like to explain both concepts and sort of like specific techniques or details about any of the specific modules that I happen to have. So if anyone in the live chat at any point has any questions or would like to focus on a particular thing, by all means, interrupt whatever I'm doing, ask your questions, let me know, because that's part of the point of having this live is that it can be interactive and we can sort of steer the conversation in the direction that the live participants are interested in. Of course, these streams are always recorded as well, which is part of why I do these kind of intros that are always the same, so that anyone who's stumbling upon them after the fact can get a little bit of context for what they're looking at. Herbie Brady, welcome to the stream. I don't recall your name. If you're new, welcome. So, yeah, usually, so another aspect of this is that I try not to plan like a specific thing to do in advance, because it really is supposed to be sort of off the cuff, and I'm trying to kind of give an authentic experience of like, what is it like when I sit down at the modular without necessarily an idea in mind, just to explore and see where it goes. So it's not, I think more often than not, I do end up with kind of like, here's the specific thing we're doing today, and it's kind of like something that we haven't done exactly before. But this is going to be a good week, I think, because I really didn't have any idea at all about like a specific topic to focus on, or, you know, a subset of modules to use, or a technique or anything like that. So I think it really is going to be pretty true to my original intentions with this series of just, let's start patching and see what we come up with, because I really have no idea what to do today. Tyler, welcome. Good to see you. Glad to see so many people here right at the beginning. I guess most of you have seen the stream before, so you know all what to expect, and it's not so important that you miss the explanation at the beginning. But yeah, so this is going to be a very free-form stream. And as always, please ask questions. Let me know what you want to do. Give me some ideas for how you would like the patch to proceed, because I always want to focus on what you want. Okay. So let's do less talking today and more patching. I feel like I spend the first like 30 minutes each time now just talking about stuff. And this is about modular synth patching, not just talking. Maybe we'll start with Plaits today, the mutable instruments macro oscillator. Because even though it's super popular, I actually tend not to use it that much, and I certainly kind of underuse it. Let me bring up the manual on my phone, because the user interface, in my opinion, leaves a bit to be desired in terms of remembering what all of the controls do in all of the various modes. And it is for that reason that I tend to stick to mostly the green modes, and especially like a fairly small subset of the same green modes, because they're just easier to remember what they do because I use them more often. But what if we were to focus on some of its algorithms that I don't use very often because I don't ever remember offhand what they do? So maybe we'll go to the orange bank to start, and, well, I know I said I wouldn't talk, but maybe we will talk just for a couple minutes to figure out what algorithm to start with. Let me zoom in on the left case, since we're going to be talking about Plaits. So anyway, this is Plaits, or for those of you in Europe, Plaits, and people love to argue about how it's pronounced, but just to curb any argument over that, it can be pronounced either way. Check the dictionary if you don't believe me. But I'm in the US, so I pronounce it Plaits. And this is, you don't really need an introduction to this unless you're very new to modular, but this is a macro oscillator, so it's a digital oscillator that has a bunch of different algorithms, and it can produce a bunch of different sounds. So these little LEDs down the middle show you which mode it's in, and it shipped with like a bank of quote-unquote green algorithms and a bank of red algorithms. You can switch back and forth between them by pressing these buttons. You can see the little LED moves to change which algorithm you're in. And then there was a firmware update right at the end of Mutable Instruments' life as a company that added 8 additional algorithms. If you go past the red mode, then you go into the orange mode. So there's 8 orange banks. And this obviously isn't, there's no symbols for that on the panel because it wasn't originally designed for it, which again is another reason why I feel like I don't use them as often as the green and red ones, because there's no visual indication at all to remind you what they do. But the manual has obviously a description of what all 8 orange banks are. So maybe let's very briefly go through them to figure out what might interest us today. And also, let's see who else is here. Winfield, hey buddy, nice to see you. I'm glad you were able to make it on a Monday. I assume this is reason why I mostly do these on Mondays, but sometimes I do them on the weekend too, because, you know, people are often working on Monday, so not a lot of opportunity to catch the stream. Sunless Cell, good to see you. By the way, Sunless Cell, are you by any chance a Destiny player? Because I swear there's like a dungeon in Destiny called the Sunless Cell. Or maybe there's like multiple meanings of that, and I'm making myself to be a big nerd. I mean, if that wasn't already apparent from what we're doing here today. Okay, so orange mode. The first mode is a classic wave shapes oscillator with a filter. Let's actually patch this so we can listen to the sounds as we go through them. So I'm gonna send it through maybe just dual dagger. Yes, no. Oh, well, actually, let's send it through Blades, because Plaits has two outputs, the main out and then like an auxiliary out, that have two different but related signals for each algorithm. So I'm going to patch it into Blades, which is a dual filter, also from Mutable Instruments. And let me kind of get these controls back into sort of a default position. And we'll do low pass, independent of each other. Let's get all the knobs at noon. And then I need some big long cables to plug the output of Blades into my mixer. Oh my god, I was right. That's awesome. How often do people know what your name is from? Yeah, you know, it's really funny. I played the original Destiny with friends when it was in its heyday. And I have a friend that was a big D2 fan and played it for most of its life. But I only finally decided to try it like right as it died. So I played the Edge of Fate expansion, which is like widely regarded as the worst one. And then I burned out on the game by the time that the next one came out. And now the game is dead. So very sad. Very sad. But who knows, maybe it'll be back in some form someday. Oops. Well, I guess that's a good test that audio is working. Let me actually turn that back on. Okay, there's some sound from Plaits. How is this in comparison to my voice? Is it too loud? Seems a little loud to me. How about this? You can hear me okay? You can hear the module okay? Okay, let's see. Plaits. What happened here? Okay. So yeah, the first bank is classic wave shapes with a filter. So the timbre is... Oh, that's crazy. The timbre is the filter cutoff. The morph is the waveform and sub-octave level. And then the filter itself, or the harmonics control, changes the quality of the filter. So all the way to the right, it's harsh, 12 dB per octave. Very resonant. Oh boy, you can hear that. Module's louder than voice. Yeah, let me turn... It does sound that way. Let me turn it down a bunch. And then if we turn the harmonics the other way, then we get a gentler filter. That's still pretty resonant. Maybe if we put harmonics in the middle, then we don't get so much resonance. Now it's too quiet. So that's a good classic subtractive sound. You know, it's a shame I don't have the Mordax data kind of near Plaits so that I can zoom in on both of them at the same time. But let's run this through data anyway, so I can show the waveforms. Let's switch over to the pod really quick. Yep. Okay, so let's bring up my preset for 2 audio signals. And let's look closely at the waveform. Ooh, that's nuts. So that green trace is the waveform that's coming from Plaits right now. Let me just try. Let's bring the sound back in. Oh, I need a patch out from Mordac's data back into our mixer so that we can hear it. Oh no, Sean Chud. That's horrible. You have very bad luck with names, my friend. First, your actual name was canceled, and now the game that you were named after it has been canceled. But third time's the charm, right? So if you change your name again, then you'll be in good shape. Although I actually think it's cool to be named after a beloved yet fallen game. No need to change it again. Okay, let's listen to this. So that's the green trace is the waveform of the oscillator. I've got the harmonics just at noon, and let me just. So that's just closing the filter. The blue trace is the auxiliary output, which we're not listening to right now, but we will in a second. So this is a very nice sound. I mean, just kind of generally nice subtractive voice. And if I change the morph knob, if I start turning it clockwise, it should change the waveform. Oh, interesting. So you can get like a direct saw wave there, and then it morphs to a square wave, and then you get pulse width modulation on the square wave, and then I guess kind of like a chorused sort of sound. I kind of like this like fully counterclockwise wave shape. This is cool. And then if we try maybe moving the harmonics a little counterclockwise, I guess I should put the timbre knob kind of halfway down. Aha, yeah. Okay, so if I have the harmonics knob at noon, that's kind of like the default state of the filter where there's no resonance. And now I have the timbre. Let me just show you. I've got so I've got the harmonics at noon and the timbre at noon. And that way, so the filter's like partially closed so that you'll be able to hear resonance as I turn the harmonics. So I'm going to turn the harmonics to the left. And you can hear that resonance coming in. And it gets very ringy all the way at the extreme. All right, let's try going clockwise on harmonics. So similar resonance, I think. It sounds pretty similar. Like apparently counterclockwise is 24 dB and clockwise is 12 dB. I tend to prefer 12 dB filters. Oh, I think the left side is maybe a little more resonant. It's a good sound. I love that extreme waveform, though. It sounds really good. So I think for me, the sweet spot is kind of like fully left on morph, a little off of noon on the sort of character of the filter. I think that sounds good. 12 dB, yeah, hell yeah. I don't know, I like a kind of like the gentler slope. I just think it sounds nicer in general. I guess maybe I would use 24 dB mostly on like bass sounds if I want like kind of a very like resonant filtery bass. Like kind of very plucky. But for like smooth sweeps, I really like the sound of 12 dB. That's why it's good to have a combination of both in your case. I think of, I'm actually not sure what Blades is, but Dual Dagger is 24 dB, and then I have, in my other case, Icaria is 12 dB. But you can also chain it if you, like, this is actually, like, it's stereo, but it's, like, two independent mono channels, in a sense. So if you patch a mono signal into the left side and then patch its output into the right side, then you get 24 dB. So you can have either 12 dB of stereo or 24 dB of mono, which I think is, again, one of the excellent things about Icaria and why it is my favorite filter. But I'm actually not sure what the curve on Blades is. All right, what do we think? Should we maybe patch a pitch sequence to this and like get some music rather than just demoing Plaits? Because there's videos if that's all you want, is to just hear the different algorithms. My goal here is that we actually find something that sounds good to us and maybe start making some music. Hey, Sunburst Studios, welcome back. We're doing a true patch from scratch stream today where I didn't have any specific plans for what we were going to focus on. So we're starting with the orange mode on Plaits, just listening to the algorithms and seeing what inspires us to make some music. Yeah, let's start a sequence. Anyone have a favorite scale? I would always default to minor without a particular opinion, but we could do something more exotic than that if we feel like it. Let's also tune our oscillator. So, I guess I should actually let me go overhead and let's patch some CV to this. I'm going to use the Oxy 1, so sequencer 1, CV1, and gate 1 are going to go to Plaits. So CV1, I could maybe use a shorter cable, could I? Will this work? Yeah, that'll reach. So I'm going to patch CV1 of the Oxy 1 into the volt per octave input. And then similarly, we will patch, actually go under the cable here. We'll patch the first gate output of Oxy 1 into the trig input. And I'm just going to let this loop. Actually, maybe we don't want a trig right now while we're tuning. Okay, so Oxy 1 thinks this is a C2, but we're tuned to G sharp 1. So let's get this up to C2. Okay, so now Oxy 1 and Plaits agree on what note they are playing. Let's see. Blues scale. Yeah, let's do it. So change the scale to, I think there's a blues scale in the Oxy 1. Yep, blues. Let's let me just I tend to like slower tempos, so I'm going to go to 100. Oh yeah, that's a blues scale, all right. Ted Rosner, welcome to the stream. Good to see you again. Jambient Sounds, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. Okay, we definitely need our gate sequence now. So as you probably know, Plaits has a built-in envelope so that you don't need a VCA. And you can control that. You can control it also has like a low-pass gate emulation. So if you hold down this left button and you turn the morph knob, it changes the decay time of that built-in envelope. Set it about there, and then we can turn the timbre knob to morph between a low-pass gate, which has that kind of plucky sound, and a full VCA where there's no change in frequency content. The envelope is just applying to the amplitude. I think we'll leave it on. I mean, the LPG sounds great. Like, who doesn't love this sound? But maybe while we're just experimenting with sounds, we'll leave it in VCA mode. We can always use an external gate LPG if we want to do that to the sound. Okay, should we try to like get an actual sequence and not just the scale? Let's go down to the Oxy 1. Let me clear this. I guess just to get things started, we'll go to the randomization page. And this will just give us a random set of gates. Don't hate that. Maybe I want this tied though. There we go. All right, let me catch up with the chat. Ted says, off topic, but pairing your favorite filter with Manus in a patch. Tips for getting a bit of squelch out of it. I mean, Icaria's got a pretty strong resonance, so I don't think it should be hard. Are you finding that it's hard to get resonance out of that? I mean, we can just patch that really quick. I have no problem taking a quick tangent. I mean, you said Manus, right? Yeah, Manus has its own filter also. So generally, Manus is, I think, used just alongside of that. But let's quickly send... Let's send Manus into Icaria, and Icaria into the mixer. Okay. So this is in the bass range. That's pretty resonant already. I guess one thing I can say about resonance on Icaria is that pay attention to the input knob, this guy down here, which is just like the attenuation or gain boost on the input signal. But this actually dramatically affects the resonance because, you know, it's boosting the overall level. And of course, resonance is also boosting a frequency at the cutoff. So the higher the input is, the less pronounced the resonance will be because the whole signal is louder, and so the difference between sort of the baseline level of the signal and the resonant peak will not be as extreme. Whereas if you put it down, put the input lower, like maybe just at 1x, you can hear the difference. There's like resonance almost all the way up, and as I increase the input, the resonance kind of gets less pronounced. So if you want as much squelch as possible, leave the input at least at 1 or possibly even lower, and boost the gain after the filter. And then, you know, Manus has its own stuff that you can control. So you can definitely get some gritty sounds, and if you apply a filter envelope to this, I think you... I mean, that's pretty squelchy. Is that helpful? Let me know if you have a follow-up question on that. Tyler asks about using PAM for modulation. Absolutely. Yes, we can also use Oxy 1's LFOs. You know, I very rarely use modulation capabilities from Oxy 1. I think, to me, they seem generally more useful if you're using like a non-modular hardware sequencer, if you're sequencing with MIDI, which may not have as much modulation capabilities as a modular synth usually does. Oh man, my tea's getting cold. I'm going to finish it real quick before it completely ices over. Okay, we have completed the tea. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, the modulation on Oxy 1. And I think for me, because the number of, outputs that you have for CV and gate are limited, it's pretty rare that I would want the modulation from Oxy 1 to use up one of those jacks. Most of the time I want them either for pitch information for multiple voices or occasionally like velocity. But usually I'm just using, the whole patch is synced with a clock, and then I'm using in-rack modulation sources that are synced to the clock if I want them to be synced, where I have sort of more direct control. But there is, there are a lot of options. Let's look at the case real quick. Oops, wrong camera. How well can you all see the screen here? To me, when I look at my preview of what you're seeing, it looks very like the refresh rate is causing a lot of flicker. So I don't know how readable that is. This is one of the downsides of having just a single camera set up, is like I can't get a very high resolution zoom in on something this small on my desk. But there's each sequencer on the Oxy 1 has 2 LFOs, and they have a pretty good degree of control. I think it's actually very well done. So it starts with a triangle wave, you've got a square, sample and hold, ramp, fall, sine, line, gate, noise, and then a bunch of different like very specific wave shapes, 14 different wave shapes. And then you can control the rate of the LFO as a division of the like main tempo. It has a built-in attenuator, so you can kind of control to what degree that modulation is applied to its destination. And then you can set an internal and an external destination, which is really cool. So the top control is you can like route it to some other parameter in the Oxy 1. So you could have it control like the velocity of the sequencer, for example. And then the out destination will let you set MIDI CCs, which you can then map to CV. So very cool, very well designed, I think. And then there's some other functions here. You can do retriggering, so that's like if a new note is played, whether or not the LFO's like waveform will start from the beginning, and then you can change the phase of it and the offset. So yeah, it's fair. And then there's 2 of these, so you press the LFO button again, and you've got an entire second LFO, and this is per sequencer. So that's pretty cool. I think, especially if you're, like I said, if you're using a MIDI instrument that has like maybe a limited number of LFOs, like a lot of like analog synths will have like 1 LFO or maybe 2. And so having multiple LFOs per instrument that you have hooked up is actually pretty powerful, and definitely a great selling point of Oxy 1. And of course you could use it in modular. I think maybe I have a few times, but generally I don't find that I need that in my setup. Let me see if there's any other questions I missed. Ted, you're welcome. No problem. That's my favorite thing about these, is just going on what people are interested in. Sunburst, do you have Plaits? Is that a clone? Or do you mean braids? Can't use alternate firmware. I don't know if there's alternate firmware for Plaits. The only, I know there's a bunch of clones of Plaits, but the only one that's kind of like fundamentally different that I'm aware of is Roved from Plum Audio, which is like a 1U version of Plaits. which I actually think is really cool. It's depending on the layout of your case, it might be a good use of space, but it's actually a little more powerful because Plaits, the real one and the sort of direct clones, do not have a attenuverter for the harmonics CV input, whereas the other controls do have a CV input. But the Roved version of it does have an attenuator for the harmonics input, so you don't need an external attenuator, which is a nice addition. Oh yeah, it's a clone. I haven't heard of that particular one. What's the name of the Behringer one? Is it Brains? I think I mostly don't have clones, so I don't always remember what the other versions of these are named. Okay, let's get back to our main sequence. Oh, the other thing I wanted to try is let's take a look at what the alternate output of this does. Let me see. So as we know, the main, oh, interesting. So the main output, as we hear, is the low pass output, right? And the AUX output, the other output, is a high pass. So if we turn that on, we should hear just a little bit of resonance as we turn the filter cutoff. So what I did is I unmuted the second channel, so now we're listening to the main out and the AUX out at the same time. And since one of them's a low pass and one of them's a high pass of the same signal, we should be hearing the full spectrum no matter where the cutoff is set. And so all the cutoff is doing is just boosting resonance at a particular position. And if we look at the pod, you can actually see that. So when I have the kind of the low pass fully open and the high pass fully closed, we see the green trace but not the blue one. And then if I turn the filter the other way, then we're losing the green signal and we're getting the blue signal. So this would be like a spectral crossfade if they were actually two different waveforms, but it's the same waveform just through two different filters. But one thing that we could do, which would be kind of cool, is if I change this, right now I have them plugged into two mixer channels, but if I move it to be plugged into the stereo, so it's plugged into a single mixer channel, just the main output is in the left input and the AUX output is in the right input, and now we should have like essentially like a panning based on frequency. So if I turn the cutoff, it's like a panner because we've got one filter opening as the other one is closing. And they also kind of close in different directions. So it's not just that the volume is going up and down, it's like the spectral content is closing, but also closing in a different direction. So as we move to the right side of our stereo image, the left side closes in a low pass, and as we move back to the left, the right side closes in a high pass. So this is actually cool. I think maybe we'll get some modulation going into this. Should we use the... Well, yeah, so we had a request for both PAM or the Oxy 1 to do modulation on this. Hell, why not? Let's use the Oxy 1. And we'll do PAM also for additional modulation. But let me set the second... let me mute this for a second while I'm thinking. And we'll look at the Oxy 1 camera. So I'm going to set the second CV output of the Oxy 1 to also sequencer 1, and we're going to set the source to the first LFO. And then if we go into the LFO page, we can configure that, but let me also take a cable from the second CV output, and we're going to put this into the timbre input. And let's listen to this. So it sounds to me like this is a unipolar LFO. Or let me actually slow it down. Turn the... So I've got the rate set to 2 bars now. I think I need to change the offset here. That is not doing... Oh, I have the amount all the way off, so it's not doing anything. I think I need to change... There we go. So let's turn the amount all the way up to 100. Okay, it is bipolar. I just didn't have the amount set. Here, you hear that? So now we've got the LFO from Oxy 1 opening and closing the filter, which, because of the low-pass, high-pass split, gives us this cool kind of panning, spectral panning sort of effect. I'm not sure I necessarily want it to be like a smooth transition like that. I think... Let's maybe not use a triangle wave. I think maybe something like a sample and hold. And let's change the rate so that maybe on the 16th note boundary. That's pretty wacky. Plaits has a third mode with FM and TB303 type modules. Oh, interesting. What company makes Plaits? I've never heard of it. So all of the mutable instruments modules except for beads are open source, which means that, you know, that's why these clones are able to be made. Both the hardware and the software are open source. But that also means that people can make new firmwares for them. And that's cool. This is the ramp wave. And a fall wave. This is a modulation signal they call line. I'm not actually sure what this is. Maybe we should look at this on the scope to understand it. Let me send this through Mordac's data. Maybe hold on, let me get a longer cable. So I'm not blocking the screen of Mordac's data with the cable. I might need to switch to my LFO preset. Oh, interesting. Let me turn this off for a second. So the yellow line at the bottom of data is the trace of the LFO from Oxy 1 that it refers to as line. So it's kind of like a slewed random, basically. Like it looks to me like it's basically a sample and hold, but it's it's not suddenly changing voltage in, you know, vertical sort of drops and bumps. It's all smoothed over. So I would refer to this as like a smooth random. I don't know why they call it line. Let's look at some of the waveforms of the other LFOs. So this one is called gate. So I guess it's literally just random gate patterns. And then noise, which is literally just white noise, which I guess you would use as a sample and hold source most commonly. I don't think you'd usually... Although, let's actually listen to this. It's like the waveform is so fast, I don't even really hear it. And then they have wave 1, wave 2. I think we need to slow down the time so we can really see the shape. So now there's a bunch of like numbered wave names. So you can see the shape of the wave changes slightly with each of these. Oh, I didn't patch it, that's why we're not hearing it. My bad. Let me patch the output back into our timbre input. There we go. Let's go back to the noise, because I'm actually curious what noise applied to this sounds like. That's kind of cool. So this is like very, very fast modulation sent to the frequency cutoff is actually creating almost audible noise. I like this one. This is good too. I think picking one that where you kind of just get like almost like a timbral change to the sound, but you don't really distinctly hear it as panning back and forth between the left and the right side. I think that's kind of a cool effect. So it kind of just gives you like stereo image without making it feel like a panner. Let's see. So that was wave 6. So what I'm learning here is that I liked wave 6 the best. Oh, I see. I thought Plaits was actually what it's called, but you're just talking about brains. I did not realize that brains had extra stuff in it like that. That's cool. Yeah, I like this. You know, what I'm learning here is that, you know, like I was saying, the Oxy one, I usually don't use its LFOs because I feel like I don't want to use up a CV output for that. But it's actually got wave shapes in it that I don't have from, like, they're kind of interesting wave shapes that are not sort of your standard LFO shapes that you would normally get from like one of my other modulators. So this could definitely be like an untapped resource of modulation signals for sure. The 4MS meta module has MI stuff. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, anything that has you know, a digital platform could have the software ported to it in theory. So and I think there's plenty of other gear that runs the like Plaits algorithms. Like what is it? One of the Arturia keyboards. I think the Micro Freak or the Mini Freak has some of the, or maybe I'm thinking of Noise Engineering. I'm pretty sure it has Mutable Instruments algorithms in it. Well, I don't want to give misinformation, but I'm pretty sure one of the Arturia synths has some of these modular algorithms in it. Okay, I like the sound of this. And I, you know, I realized I was originally planning to go through like the whole like orange bank of plate sounds to see what was inspiring, but I mean, this sounds plenty good. I think we can run with this just on this very first one. I wonder about maybe turning it up to another octave. Do we like this as a bass sound? It's funny, it almost sounds like a delay, doesn't it? It's got kind of like an echoey quality. Ah, they have both. Cool. Okay, let me stop this so we're not listening to the same repetitive thing over and over. Trying to decide if, like, to add a second melodic voice, whether I want this voice that we just made to be the bass or something lower under it. I think it sounds good in its current range. Actually, let me try changing the rate of the LFO again. I actually like that too. So I changed the rate from 16th notes to quarter notes. I might actually like that more. What do you all think? Quarter notes or 16th notes? There's also eighth notes. But I think I like the quarter note sound better. Or we could do something that's not an even division of 4, like 1/6. Which I guess is kind of like triplets. Or a dotted value, really, not triplets. This is eighth note triplets. Kind of like the quarter notes. So if we go up an octave on this... Oh, I'm looking at the wrong case. I'm so sorry. Just changing the octave to see what range this sounds best in. I think it sounds best here. Let me try changing the time of the VCA, or sorry, of the built-in envelope. Yeah. Not bad. I think I like it a little shorter. And let's try using the built-in LPG. So that's much more clearly like a bass sound if I put it into full low-pass gate mode as opposed to just using it as a VCA. But then you also don't really hear the wobbliness of the LFO as much. Whereas I start to open it, the gate a bit, than you do. I think I'll leave it on full VCA because we do have this running through blades. So we can also do further filter modulation. I feel like I want the low end to be kind of a little stronger. So I'm gonna go into high pass mode. And I'm gonna turn up the resonance. And then try to turn up the high pass to try to catch a low frequency and boost it. So I'm kind of using this like an EQ. Yeah, right about there. Gives it a little bit more low end. Oh yeah, oxychoral is another one that uses Plaits algorithms. I don't have modules that use MIDI for the most part. I guess a few do. Like Zermixa has MIDI in out. Bard Quartet can do some MIDI. I guess there's a MIDI out on PAM, but not an input. And I have, of course, obviously a MIDI interface at the top of my light case for input, but it doesn't do output. But I don't have a macro oscillator like that is polyphonic controllable via MIDI. I think maybe at some point I'll get something like that, but I don't just do modular, so I tend to use other instruments for polyphonic sounds, which I think they're better suited for anyway. Like to me, obviously there's good sounds, but if I'm just sending a MIDI signal to a module over a single patch cable, that might as well be a desktop synth, I kind of feel like. I mean, obviously there's more modulation capabilities with its other inputs, but I feel like the reason for it to be modular is a little less clear. But I think especially for a small setup, like if you're trying to build something in 64 HP, like my pod case over here, then having one of those really versatile modules where maybe you want something that's very rich voice and you want to dedicate most of the space in your module to effects or other modulation, then I think that's the place where one of those sort of really powerful oscillators or voice modules would really shine. And to some degree, Plaits is already like that in the sense that it has a built-in VCA, built-in LPG, and all of these different modes. So it's a very, very good for sort of your one melodic voice, very flexible, but it's still, it's still monophonic in the sense that you can only give it one sort of trigger and volt per octave signal. Even though it has a chord mode, it's programmed differently than you would via MIDI where you're actually playing it polyphonically. Okay, before we do more melodic sequencing, maybe we should get at least a basic drum beat going. Gotta have our kick drum. So let us patch in. I'm gonna move this over to the 5th channel of the mixer because I like to do drums on 1 through 4. And let me also reset up my mixer. Oops. Hold on. Let's get all of these effect sends set to 0 in case we use some effects, which I suspect we will. Oh, what am I gonna... Should we use Oxy 1 for drums, or what do we want to do here? I guess that is probably... Oh no, we wanted to use Pam for modulation. Well, I guess we'll get there too. I'm just going to use Oxy 1 for drums, I think. So, let's get some drum triggers. And we'll do... The second gate signal will be our kick drum. The third gate signal will be our snare drum. And the fourth gate signal will be our hi-hat. And then, of course, I need to program this on the Oxy 1. So let's go to our second sequencer. I'm going to put this in multi-mode. Where's multi? Multi-track. Okay. And then we're going to go to our CV gate setup, and I'm going to set gates 2, 3, and 4 of that sequencer to track 1, 2, 3. And then let's give it some kick drums. And some hi-hats. Oops. This may not be a good pattern, but we'll hear it in a second once I patch this up. Okay, and then we need some audio patching to actually hear our drum sounds. So, let's go back to the big case. Kick drum into channel 1. Snare drum into channel 2. And hi-hat, which is stereo, into channel 3. And why am I not hearing anything? Oh, did I stop the playback? There we go. Sounds kind of quiet. Let's give it some volume. Let me know if the volume between my voice and the music is okay. I'm gonna probably have to turn down the melodic voice because that seems much louder than the drums. All right, not too bad. Good starting point. Maybe a little bit more. I kind of wish I had Tauros connected here if we wanted to get like a kind of a pad-esque effect. I might use like the chord mode on Plaits because I want something a little more washy to go with this bass line. Any thoughts on a sound we might like to hear? Thinking. I guess we could try to use rings, maybe? Maybe rings into beads. I mean, that is kind of the classic sort of wash, especially if we give it very long, slow notes. Just curious. Let's play with this for a bit, see if what we can come up with. Oh, I guess I also want to sync. Let's sync Pam so we can start using Pam. So I'm going to plug in the clock and reset outputs of the Oxy 1 into the clock and run inputs of Pam. So Pam will be synced to the Oxy 1. There we go. And let me reset all of the settings on Pam from whatever I was doing last time. And let's maybe just start with a divided by 4 trigger from Pam and use that to trigger rings. And then let's send rings into beads. So we'll leave beads off to start with. And then we'll send the audio from beads into our mixer. Turning the brightness way down and the damping up. I'm not sure that's tuned super well. Question from Ted: why did you decide to relegate Fracture from the main case and keep Kraken? I swap them in and out depending on either if I want a specific sound, I'll use one or the other, and also just sometimes I change it up just for variety, and maybe I'll be inspired by something different. So I don't prioritize one over the other. I got Kraken first and Fracture later, and I like both of them, although I tend to use them probably not in a very wild way. Like maybe I'd be, in most cases, better suited to just using a drum machine, because I'm very oftentimes like not modulating them, especially like heavily. So yeah, if I had more space in the dark case, I would just have both of them kind of permanently racked up. But I generally wouldn't be using both of them at the same time. And so the space being at a premium, I usually just swap them in and out. That's the reason. I think they're kind of different. I mean, obviously a snare drum and a clap sound different. So, whichever one is more appropriate for your music, if you were just going to pick one of them. They're also a little different in that Kraken is like kind of, how to say this? Like, I feel like it's more trying to like emulate a real instrument. Whereas Fracture, you can get kind of a sort of realistic clap sound, but I think maybe WMD describes it as like a crowd noise generator or something like that. And so it can do a lot of other kind of like crackly sort of clap-esque sounds. Whereas I feel like Kraken at pretty much all settings sounds like some degree of a snare drum. Like there's you're kind of always in the ballpark of a snare drum, and Fracture goes like much more off the rails with like how different the sounds you can get from it are to like a standard hand clap sound. So if you want like a pretty good emulation of a snare drum in modular, I think Kraken is great. But if you want something that is going to give you kind of, you know, your snare clap kind of function in music, like it plays that role, but also has more sort of sound design options for different things, then Fracture might be better. But obviously they're both great, which is why I have both of them. Hopefully that answers your question. So I'm not sure this is working super well, having rings in here. Maybe if we add some reverb to it. I'm going to go actually fully wet, because I don't really want to hear the sound of rings. I just kind of want a wash of background texture. Let's also use the clouds mode of fidelity, so the signal is a little more lo-fi. Yeah, that's kind of what I was hoping for, is just some degree of kind of ambience to this. I wonder if this needs... Let me mute the... Sorry, mute that bass line. Just trying to see if we need some sort of pitch variation. I think with the reverb fully wet, it actually sounds fine to modulate the pitch fairly heavily. Let's hear what it sounds like without the reverb. I mean, you barely hear that because it's not modulating the dry signal, it's just modulating the... It's very quiet because there's the brightness on rings is down so far. I'm not sure that this sound necessarily goes with the bass line, especially in that blues scale. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Anyway, this is the trial and error of, you know, patching as you go and just kind of experimenting. So yeah, I think the pitch modulation doesn't really work. Definitely a pretty pad, but it doesn't go with the bass line really. But I'm also, I don't know. It's interesting, like using a scale that I don't usually use is kind of a creative challenge for me, and just like my musical instincts of like where to go with something. I don't really know what to pair this with, or like I don't have an obvious idea of like what to add to it. Maybe something kind of higher pitched and pluckier. Maybe we'll send Ona through the natural gate for some higher end pluckiness. Let me just plug it directly into the mixer. Maybe probably like a square wave. Okay, that sounds tuned. Let's send that through natural gate. And should we use maybe PAM, like a Euclidean sequence for natural gate? See, I'm probably gonna need a long ass cable for this. That'll work. Okay. You can kind of hear that little pluck. Okay, let's go to our second input, and I'm going to set it to quarter note or 16th notes, and then we're going to go into the extended settings and do 5 Euclidean steps and 2 triggers. So we'll get a little bit of syncopation. So it's pitched, but is really more of a rhythmic element. I think syncopation probably goes nicely with kind of this blues scale. And I think we definitely need some delay on a sound like this. So let's patch up C legs. We'll use that as a delay send, as I often do. So Zermixa send out into the C legs input, Zermixa output into the first return. Unmute that, and then we'll send a bit of it to C legs. And let's also clock C legs. So it'll be synced to the tempo. I think just a digital delay is fine. I'm just changing the time slider to find a clock division that sounds good. That sounds pretty good. Give it a little bit of reverb for some space. I don't hate it. And then we're going to want some modulation on the decay, I think. And maybe the feedback of the delay also. Yeah, because that feedback kind of masks the changes in decay. So let's use a output of PAM for modulation, as was requested. I forget now who asked about this. But well, let's patch this first. So I'm going to send a CV signal from the third output of PAM into the decay input on the natural gate. And let's set, what sort of division do we want? Maybe something like divided by 3 maybe. And let's pick a wave shape. Yeah, maybe this kind of, I don't know what you call it, like parabolic curve or something. Oh, I don't know how well you can see that. Sorry, I didn't zoom in. But yeah, I'm trying to pick a wave shape for the modulation signal out of this output. I can try this. So you can hear it a little bit when the decay offset is so low. But if I give it a little bit of, oh, sorry, go back to the right case. So if I had the decay slider all the way down, it's very subtle. You can hear a little bit of this sort of syncopated sort of offset groove. But if I bring the baseline decay up a little bit more so that the modulation signal is pushing the decay higher up, then you start to really hear more of the variance there. And then using a clock division that is not a division of 4 means that the sort of repetition of the cycle of the decay modulation will kind of shift so that it's not always the same in relation to the sort of the drum beat and the bass line. Yeah, that sounds not bad. I can play the open slider to get some of those more ringy notes coming through from time to time. Do we want maybe some... let's also modulate the pulse width of the square wave to change the timbre of that little pluckiness. So let's again plug in a patch cable from PAM, output 4 into the pulse width modulation. And then I think I want something slow here also. So let's go to the 4th output. Let's maybe do something much slower, like divide by 9. So it's a little bit longer than sort of a even division of the loop. And what shape should we use here? I wonder maybe just kind of a pseudo-random shape, like this. This is the like the smooth random curve. That sounds pretty good. So we've got smooth random modulation going into the pulse width of our pulse wave, which we're feeding into natural gate. And then, of course, we can attenuate that on ONA directly with this pulse width modulation. Just gives a little bit more variety. Maybe even a little FM on this. That might be interesting to kind of add some grit to it, because it's kind of a subtle, sort of pretty rhythmic, like plucky sound. But, I wonder about using PAM as an FM input. We could try that. Let's do another cable from the 5th output of PAM into the FM input. I'm going to turn the FM all the way up so we hear the maximum effect. Oh, that's actually cool as hell. So I didn't change the settings on PAM. So the 5th output is just a quarter note pulse, so like 50% of the time the gate's high. And you get those, like, those kind of like glidey sort of sounds. This is with linear FM. We could also try exponential. It'll be pretty extreme. Actually not. That's surprising. I guess just because the signal is not audio rate. Let's try speeding it up. So if I go to the 5th output on PAM, let's try speeding the clock rate so that we're getting gates. So you get that kind of more bubbly, wiggly sound the faster the clock rate is. And then we kind of quickly get into sound effect territory at 16x. So now, with this really fast clock rate, we're essentially just giving it a really fast square wave. It significantly changes the timbre of that sound. Oh, hey, Bad Machine, I appreciate it. You're not only a bad machine, but you're my hype machine. I'd say you're a good machine. So this is cool, because now with this like fast clock pulse into the FM input, if I turn down the FM attenuator so that that signal is having no effect, we get sort of like the baseline, raw, pretty pulse wave. But as I turn the FM attenuator up, then we start to get that FM sound. So why don't we modulate this through a VCA so we change back and forth between the two? So I'm going to leave the FM attenuator all the way up, but instead of plugging PAM directly into the FM input, I'm going to run it through a VCA. So I'm going to unplug it from PAM, plug it into the first output of the quad VCA, and then I'm going to plug, is that long enough? Yeah. I'm going to plug the PAM output into the VCA input, and then we can use another modulation signal. Maybe, should we do PAM again, I guess? I mean, we could have just done internal modulation there, I guess. But, let's do something else. Let me take like a slow unipolar triangle wave from Oct into the CV input. I want it even slower than that. Maybe not that slow. So now we have this LFO from Oct controlling the amount of FM modulation that's being let through from that very fast square wave on PAM to the FM input on ONA. Yeah. That's pretty cool. And so that'll be kind of constantly morphing back and forth between those two sounds. Just the beauty of modulation through a VCA. Modulate your modulation. That is the way to make modular truly shine. Nice. It's hard not just to sit there and slide that open slider around. Natural gate is just so performable. Should we go back to the Oxy 1 and maybe add some variety to the sequence so we're not just looping the same 16 steps over and over? You know, I haven't spent much time with, like, rhythmic variation on this thing, especially in multi-track mode. I don't even know how that would work. I guess, well, Well, one thing we could at least program is we can take, let's go to our 6th channel. Is there a way to do probability per trigger on this thing? Repeat. It's not really what I want. So you have like a trigger probability per step. I don't know that there's a trigger probability. Oh yeah, trig, there we go. So if you press the perform page, then you have performance settings per track within the multi-track. So each of these rows of buttons, which corresponds to our 3 drum sounds, has individual performance controls. And one of the performance controls is like percentage chance that the trigger will actually happen. So I can turn this down to maybe like 80%. And then you can hear that the hi-hats are not constant anymore. We can also vary maybe the kick drum pattern. So let's, I added triggers for the kick drum right on the end. And let's make that second to last trigger happen one on the first repeat of every 2, and the second one on the second repeat of every 2. So the kick drum will have slightly different timing right before the repeat on each loop. And I think we can maybe do the same here, but I'll put, yeah, let's just put it off by 1. So let's do 1 of 2, 2 of 2. Yeah, having that kick drum come a 16th note after the snare gives some more nice syncopation. Ah, that's a good idea, Sunburst. Modulating the model on Plaits. You know, that's I never really think about the fact that it has that model input. So you can have a completely different sound in real time. Although, you know, it's funny that I say that too, because I think my most popular video that I've ever made was about using Plaits to do a drum beat by modulating the model input. I still don't know why that one was so successful, but that's got far and away more views than any of my other videos from like maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But yeah, we can try that. I mean, so that kind of drum beat that I did in that video is like very intentionally designed to have a certain effect. But when you already have a sequence going like this and you just want to suddenly randomly modulate the input, then that's gonna give some surprising results. But I think this could be actually interesting. So if we go back to our melodic sequence, so on the Oxy 1, we've got this gate pattern, right? Or this sequence is what's controlling the bass line from Plaits right now. What I'm thinking is, if we wanted Plaits to do something else in those gaps between the notes where this is playing, so there's 4 steps of the sequence that don't have a gate on them right now. What we could do is we could send a modulation signal. I'm just thinking here. I'm thinking about triggering Plaits on all 16 steps, but having this sequence let through only on the ones that are programmed. I think that might be interesting. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to unplug the trigger from the Oxy 1, and we're going to give it just a straight 16th note trigger from Pam. Okay, so we want... Oops. Okay, so this is similar to what we had before, except it's triggering it on those gaps where it didn't used to. And now what I'm thinking is we take a modulation signal also from Pam, maybe just stepped random. Also on every 16th note, so 4x. We'll change the shape to stepped random, so we'll get a different random voltage on every 16th note. And we're going to plug that into... This is going to get nasty for a second, I don't know what to expect. We're going to plug this into the model input. Okay, so now we're actually changing the Plaits algorithm on every 16th note. So we're just getting random shit, basically. And of course, like, the meanings of the control positions are very different between every mode. So there's, other than the pitch being the same, like, there's no real connection between the settings. So it sounds completely bonkers. But what I'm thinking is we can maybe use some logic on kinks so that that model change only happens on the steps of the sequence that are not programmed on the Oxy 1. So if I send the trigger sequence... What happened there? Is this... Oh, this cable is maybe a little faulty. To think through this. If I send a trigger signal, let me use a longer cable so it doesn't cover plates. Let's plug our trigger signal into the first logic input. And then we want to plug our modulation signal into the second input. Sure if it's max or min when you think about this. What I want to do is I want to I'm kind of using it like a VCA essentially. I guess we could use a VCA, but I mean that's kind of what we're doing here. So I want to let the signal through only on the steps that are not programmed on Oxy 1. I think this cable is damaged. I need to toss that one out. Let's use a different one. That's not it. I want the min. Yeah, that's what I wanted. So this might not have enough gaps in the trigger sequence to be super audible, but maybe that's actually a good thing. So what's happening here is that I'm sending constant 16th note triggers to Plaits. So Plaits is triggering on every 16th note regardless of the sequence from Oxy 1. But I'm sending the Oxy 1 sequence into the kinks logic section, and I'm essentially using it as a VCA. So it's got that as one input, and it's got our stepped random voltage from the other one, and then we're taking the minimum output of the logic section into the model input. And the result is that only when the trigger is off will we, like when the steps that don't have a trigger, when the voltage is low, only in those cases will we hear the signal from PAM pass through. Because we're always taking the lowest of the two voltages, whatever's coming in on A or B. And if the trigger from Oxy 1 is not active, that's like 0 volts. So that's always going to be the minimum. So we're always getting 0 volts on triggers where... So is that right? Yeah, essentially. I mean, I guess it's inverted because I actually want it to let through when the trigger is not present. But you can hear how we hear those little glitches of stuff. Yeah, we could use a VCA to sort of like... I'm kind of using this as a simple VCA, where it's just one or the other, but doesn't change. But we could also run that through a VCA to kind of change the amount that this gets let through over time, or something like that. Let's try the max. Yeah, so with the max output of the logic section, then we get constant changes because the trigger is constantly firing on almost every step. And so obviously that 5 volt signal is the highest. I kind of like it with just like little glitches let in here and there. I can also maybe add some probability on the actual sequence, so that some of these triggers don't always happen. And then we'll get more glitches from the model modulation. That's pretty cool. Let's add some delay to this also. So this is... I'm losing track of what's on what. This is the 5th channel, I think. That's pretty cool. Let's modulate the feedback also on the delay. Oh, sorry, I was looking at the wrong case there. I gotta step up my camera angle switching skills. So we still have one output of PAM. Let us... probably need a longer cable than this. Let's see. Yeah, that'll work. So I'm going to plug the 8th output of PAM, which I will set as maybe a slow sine wave or triangle wave. Let's do a triangle wave at like, it's pretty slow, like maybe divided by 14. And we're going to plug that into the feedback CV input on C legs. And I'm going to turn the attenuator about halfway up on that. So now over the course of a few beats, we're going to get swells of feedback that come in and drop out. It's not super pronounced. Maybe turn it up a little bit. Let's actually mold this. And we can use it for multiple parameters. So one of them will go to feedback. Maybe a little bit of the color to give it some glitch, some digital glitch. Turn the attenuator all the way up on that so it can go to its full value. Oh yeah. Maybe some pretty cool. I wonder what it would sound like if we ran the Plaits voice through Ruin Versio for distortion. That might be cool. And then we can modulate that. Okay, so I'm going to temporarily unplug the Plaits voice. I'm going to plug it into Ruin Versio. Oops, switch to the right camera. So I just moved from the 5th channel of the mixer into Ruin Versio. I'm going to set it to fully dry so we don't hear anything initially. And then let's plug the output of Ruina back in. Okay, and let's bring in the blend so we hear what the distortion sounds like, and we can... So here is fully distorted. Pretty cool. Just kind of messing with the controls. Seems like the wave folding has the strongest effect. The wave folding with the octavizer up high. This is pretty nuts. Okay. So taking the blend down, now what I'm thinking is just modulating the blend amount so that we get kind of distortion coming in and out as another timbral change. I think maybe we'll use Oct for this. I guess we could actually use Mimetic. Someone mentioned before, was it Dad Machine? Yep. Let's send another clock signal to Mimetic, and we're out of clock output, so I'm gonna have to mult this. So let's unplug this guy. Send our 4x clock to this multiple. And then we'll send this reach. Just barely. Okay, so now I've got Mimetic clocked. Let's take the first channel of that, just give it random modulation. And then we will send the output of that first channel to the blend input on Bruna. Woo! That's bonkers. That's probably too much, though. So I just shred it again, but I use the 0+ shred, which will give stepped random values on every 16th note, but with a kind of a limited voltage range. Maybe we'll use lapsus os though instead of, so we'll give it its full signal strength, but we'll send it through lapsus os. So let's send that first channel into the mix input of the last channel of lapsus. And now we can play the amount of modulation from Mimetic that's getting let through. Sunburst, wish you had enough room in your case for a nice mixer. Yeah, I've talked about this on the stream before, but the reason I picked Zermixa is because it was like the best compromise of feature set and space there are definitely more featureful mixers, but they take a lot more space in the case. And there are smaller ones, but they don't give you, 8 channels of stereo with 2 send and return channels, which is really awesome. And I've made great use of this across my music the last few years. I actually think that a small case like a pod is a good use case for a modular mixer. Like, a lot of people think you don't really need your mixer to be modular. You can just get, a desktop mixer, or even you use your audio interface if you're just recording to the computer, as long as it can accept modular signals, which most mixers, I think, probably can. And so then you don't need an in-modular in-case mixer. But I really like having it here, especially, since I do kind of these live performance-oriented jams. It just feels like it works nicely to have it. And I do use the modulation on the expander a lot for various different things, often panning and sort of pseudo sidechain compression kind of stuff. But I think, having like a dedicated small case like this might be a good thing. Like, similar to how IntelliGel sells like Metropolix, their sequencer, as like a standalone device, where it's really just the modular mixer, but they're kind of selling it to you with a case that fits it, so you can just treat it as a standalone sequencer that you can use for anything. I do think that that's kind of a nice use for a small case, is having sort of one of those kind of essential utilities that you really need in pretty much every patch, but that feels painful to have kind of use in your large performance case. If I wasn't constantly using this small case, like swapping things in and out to do videos on different topics, I think that would actually be kind of a good use for maybe moving Zermixa and the expander into this case and freeing up space in the main one for more modules. So that way I can have a lot of these ones that are usually spillover and kind of don't fit in the main case to actually be in there and kind of switch things in and out less often. So yeah, definitely one of the fun, interesting parts of modular is, in addition to making music with it and getting new stuff that you can be inspired by, is to also kind of like play the game of, I guess, like the puzzle of like how to fit everything physically in a big rectangle. Well, we started with a blues scale, but we ended up with this kind of like 9 Inch Nails sort of sound. I don't hate it. It's pretty cool. What else can we modulate? I guess we could give an occasional pitch change to Ona. And I'm once again on the wrong camera. Let's send a copy of the clock to Marbles. And then we can use the CV from Marbles clocked. And let's maybe just go it in full octave mode, so that we'll occasionally get octave pitched. Changes to the there we go. So now I'm just taking one of the CV signals from Marbles and I have the steps turned all the way to the right, so it's just giving you octaves of CV, and it'll kind of I might want to attenuate this. Maybe not. Let's try it. Just having it change the pitch of the little plucky sound from Ona. So I'm taking in a signal that has like quantized pitches, but I'm sending it through an attenuator so that the attenuator is actually sort of detuning it and it's no longer quantized exactly. And I can attenuate that signal from marbles. To get some kind of weird pitch changes on Ona. I'm not sure this sounds better necessarily. It's definitely cool as a texture. There we go, a little attempt at performance there. I was turning up the reverb amount and the distortion and the pitch decay time on the kick drum. I guess maybe the decay on the snare might sound good too. Oh, you know, we need some delay on the snare drum. And definitely on the hi-hat. Pretty awesome. Well, I think this is actually one of the more successful streams, in my opinion, in terms of like having no idea what the hell I was going to do at the beginning to within a couple of hours coming up with something kind of cool. A little bit of performance, some good modulation, used a lot of different modules here. Explored well, we didn't get very far actually with exploring the orange models of plates. We ended up using the very first one. Although I guess technically we're using all of them because we're modulating the model input randomly. So presumably all of them have glitched through at some point here. Alright, we're reaching the end here, so I will do my usual outro, which is to thank all of you who are here live today or who are watching the video on recording for spending this time with me. I always have a great time doing these. I hope you enjoyed this and learned something. I certainly did. I do these every week, generally on Monday afternoons, but occasionally on Saturday or Sunday also. So if you'd like to see when they're coming out, you can subscribe to the channel. And of course, I would very much appreciate any support that you can lend my way on Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/Percepties, you can sign up for free there, and that'll give you updates about when I have new live streams, new videos, other new content. And if you're able to contribute a few dollars each month, then there's a bunch of benefits for paid subscribers. So you'll be able to download audio of any of the music that I post as videos to the channel. You'll get patch notes for all of my educational videos where you get like a full text breakdown of all of the connections and modules and settings that I used in whatever I was demonstrating. Occasionally I release sample packs that are available for download for patrons. There's also a Discord server for the community where you can come hang out with us. You can join that for free as well. It's bit.ly/Percepties Discord. You'll see on the screen in a second. If you join the paid Patreon tiers, you'll also get access to additional channels with more topics that provide more than just kind of the basics of announcing new videos and whatnot. So yeah, please support me if you can. If you've been enjoying the content, it's going to help me to do this sustainably in the long term, so I can keep doing this for y'all. And for me. Thanks again for watching today. Stay tuned for a new video on Wednesday. We'll be exploring ring modulation. And then I'll see you again next week.